What's up everyone? Welcome back or welcome to a new video. If you're new, don't forget to hit the subscribe button to join our community. My name is Aldo, I'm a powerlifter and forex trader, and today it's the day that we finally discuss about my recent powerlifting competition. We'll mainly talk about how it went, any note worth mentioning, and plans for the future. It's been days, actually weeks. I had the time to reflect on the performances and on the overall powerlifting competition. I definitely and finally feel ready to discuss with you all my conclusions. Before we begin with the video, if this video helps you, inspires you in some way, please share it so we can help and impact as much people as possible together. And I want you to know that your support means a lot to me and of course to the channel. Let's start off the video by saying this was my second powerlifting competition, and I really have to remind that to myself since I'm still new to the game. I could consider myself a beginner. There's still lots of things to be learned, to be discovered, and above all to improve. As always, I'm very thankful for all of the people that showed support, either watching the live stream or that came in person, and most of all for my coach that, as usual, made the whole meet much more smoother and enjoyable. This time I didn't really record much, and that's because I was enjoying the present moment. I was focusing on enjoying the meet, the performances, and everything basically. Got to the meet on time, weighted myself, did the whole process by myself again. This time was much better since it was my second time. The weight was so good that I even had the chance to have breakfast and drink whatever I wanted before the weigh-in, and weighted around 71.8 kilos, which was 400 grams higher than the previous competition. That's literally crazy because if you remember, the last competition I competed early in the morning. I didn't really have time to have breakfast or drink at all before the weigh-in. But this time the meet was in the early afternoon. So if you were to compare the two, I might have weighted the same. For that, I have to blame my bodybuilding background, since I would rather do a mini cut prior to the competition and stay lean than to fill the weight category. I definitely learned from watching others that were barely fitting the weight category that I still have a lot of margin to the weight category, and probably those 2-3 extra kilos are gonna be very beneficial and help me with the strength gains. So next time, next powerlifting competition, I'm definitely going to organize things differently. Now let's go over the lifts. Like all powerlifting competition, the first exercise is squat. So let's go over my first call, which was 190 kilos. As you saw, they moved probably too fast. That's probably the best way to describe it. And for those who paid attention, my knee sleeves were different from the previous competition, and that's because, as a side note, there are two different kinds of knee sleeves, the normal ones and the stiff ones. As you already can imagine, the stiff ones are those who add more kilos, those extra kilos. I'm not sure how much, I can guess around 5 kilos, but it's very different from athlete to athlete, so I can't really tell for sure. So the first call was literally epic, and the technique was so good that we decided to PR already in the second attempt, which was 202 kilos, weight that I never tried even in my workouts. they went unexpectedly good also, and most of all for the technique. And that's what gave us, both me and my coach, the confidence to try a crazy weight for the third attempt. At the time, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I weighted 71.8 kilos, which basically means that 3 times my body weight would be exactly 215 kilos. So that was a hell of a jump. That's why both me and my coach decided to go more conservative, since, these are still my first competitions. I'm still very early in the game. So we decided to go for 210 kilos. As you saw, I don't really think I had more margin than that, probably 2 kilos more, but who knows. Still, I'm massively happy for how squats went. It's actually one of the exercises I hated at the beginning before actually starting powerlifting. But now, as much progress I made and perfecting the technique, the whole journey made me realize that squat is actually, I don't know, kind of, I'm starting to feel, some love for the squats. So yeah, definitely massively happy for the 210 massive PR. And if you remember from the previous competition, the PR was 195 kilos. And that basically means that I gained 15 kilos of squats in 5 months. And that's crazy. Definitely happy. Now let's move on to bench. And as for the first call, I was feeling bench very good in the warm-up. As usual, in the entire prep, I had the biceps inflammation problem. To describe it a little bit, whenever I get on prep, my biceps get inflamed. They hurt, especially at the bottom of bench press, which is, I would argue, one of the most important parts of the movement. So yeah, that time I felt very good, the time of the competition. So I entered the first weight. The first call was 120 kilos. They moved okay, and that's because I messed the technique a little bit. I had a misgroove. I went down a little bit too fast, and that's one of the problem I had pretty much the entire prep. They still moved okay. That's why on the second attempt we tried 127, which is 2 kilos below my previous max. The max I did on the last competition, which was 130. after deadlift, it didn't seem like I had much more, and that was already a little bit sad. That's because I knew I wasn't gonna do a massive PR, but still tried to attempt a decent jump from there. The problem is that I expected bench press to go kind of bad on the day of the competition, and that's because the entire prep I had problems. I tried to, and that's gonna be one of the main focus of the next prep, to adjust the bench grip width. I'm still too narrow, and that makes bench press very, very hard, even though I feel it very good. But if I want to up my margin, if I want to up my chance to hit crazy numbers, I have to play bench press a little bit differently. The third and last call was 135. They didn't really move from my chest. It was probably too much of a PR. I probably would have tried 132 and would have more chance to close them, but still, kind of remained in the same range of the previous competition. So yeah, that was it for bench press, and we finally move on to deadlift, the last exercise, and there we had some troubles. I entered the first call very low, and that's because I really wanted to try very high numbers on deadlift, that competition, to up my total. But I still decided with my coach that it was on our first call, we tried to take things very slow and actually very chill. The first attempt was 230 kilos. As you saw, I didn't even feel the weight, but there were some problem with the grip, which I later on realized what was the mistake I was doing. But we'll get onto that. It was kind of strange. Both me and my coach didn't realize what was wrong and why the bar literally slipped out of my hands. So the next attempt, we tried to still take things chill, slow, and actually safe, since I still have to make total, still have to get the exercise right. So for the next call, we tried 235, which a 5 kilos jump is not really much on a deadlift. And unexpectedly, as you saw, I lost the grip again at the top, which is kind of very frustrating things to happen. And that's because if you see from the floor, and actually the whole movement was very smooth and actually very fast. So that means that muscle-wise and actually movement-wise, I had much more in the tank. Probably I was around 250 kilos. Yeah, kind of a strange feeling, frustrating feeling, probably angry. So yeah, a mix of bad emotions. On the third attempt, we tried the same weight just to, don't get out of rankings and, still get a lift valid. So we tried pretty much the same weight, 235 kilos. As you saw, this time I corrected the mistake, which basically was I was gripping the bar on the smoother path, and that of course is impossible to not get slipped out of your hands. And on the third attempt, you can clearly see I gripped the bar on the rough part, which is where you will get the most grip. But that time, the only thing I could focus on was my grip. So the whole movement at the end of the lift, the bar bounced off my quads and made me fall forward. And that's why I wasn't able to close the last one. Still a bit frustrated for deadlift since I felt I had a lot more in the tank, and that's why with my coach I discussed later on and tried in the warm-up room a PR, an official PR, which was 245 kilos. I don't really have the recordings, and that's because in the warm-up room you cannot really record, so you will have to believe my words. But you know what? He didn't even move from the floor, and that's because at the end of the meet, I'm usually a zombie. I probably even was as focused as I would have needed to be. So yeah, at that point, the meet was over, and deadlifts got me out of rankings. That obviously because you can compete against others when one of your lifts gets invalidated, and that's because the difference, the gap between your total and their totals would be insane. It wouldn't even make sense. So that's why. I'm not really mad, or I don't even care. That's because I would argue in the newbie stage of powerlifting, and even further than that actually, rankings don't really matter that much. And that's because in these stages, I would argue the only thing that matters would be top 3, top 5, and even then, when you reach that level, I can confirm from watching other guys that are at that level, even then, the only place that will matter to you is first place. So unless you are competing to actually win the entire meet, rankings don't really matter much. Overall, it was a great meet, lots of lessons, I had fun, and it was very exciting. Also because in this competition, there were literally monsters. I had a chance to watch the Italian bench press record being broken like literally live, and that was wild. Then there was a guy that pulled 295 kilos of deadlift which for my weight category, that's insane. And yeah, that was exciting too. So yeah, overall, I had a great time. What's the plan for the future? Well, as I mentioned multiple times in my prep videos, now that I'm done with this powerlifting competition, at the beginning of April, I will start the bulk, the famous bulk, which won't last long because I will end it probably at the end of May. Yeah, that's just 2 months. But first, I gain weight really easily. So 2 months of bulk are more than enough for me. And second, in June, there will be my other powerlifting competition. I wasn't really sure of taking part on that competition, but this meet kind of left me a bitter taste. So I'm definitely hungry and motivated to prove lots of things to myself in the first place. So yeah, these are going to be the plans for nutrition and competitions. In regards of training, I'm still taking things very slow. I'm still recovering. So I'm transitioning more to bodybuilding type of training. And then probably in 2 weeks, so basically at the beginning of April, I will resume with the powerlifting style of training. And definitely excited to work on all of the things I learned, all of the lessons, and so on. So yeah, these are gonna be the plans. That's it for this video. Hope you liked it. Remember to hit the like and subscribe to follow the journey and for more. Until next time, stay strong and keep pushing.